And then they would tear up what they call tear up them legs. They whip
God.
just above the ankles, just tear up them legs, right? You remember that stuff?
Yes, yeah, and don't you come back inside the house with a little stick.
Yeah, that's right.
A big one. Oh my God.
It'll be worse for you. It'll be worse for you, right? But my parents, neither one of them graduated from high school. They ended up getting their GEDs, but they were smart enough to stop that cycle in our family. And my kids were raised the same way. You know, I didn't put my hands on my kids in anger. And I tried not to. As a matter of fact, my son, he's an attorney, right? My son was talking with one of his colleagues, and they were swapping stories about how they grew up. And my son was saying that I told him, Dad, how you yelled at me only one time. And I said, I never yelled at you. He said, yeah, you did. And I said, what? And so it was this time when I had just come back from doing The Blob. You guys remember that movie? The Blob?
Yeah, one of my favorites.
Yeah.
One of my favorites.
So we were in Louisiana, and he was in middle school, and he got tangled up with the wrong crowd, and they were doing some bad stuff. And I'm sitting in my hotel room talking to the principal of the school about my son, and I was thinking, I never imagined I would be doing this. So, but anyway, the boys around 12, that's when they really need their father to straighten them out. So when I came home and I was talking to him and explaining to him how disappointed I was in his behavior, and he had the kind of like this gang stance like this. He was like that. And so I said, no, we're not doing that. So I grabbed him by his shoulders and straightened him out, and I let him know how strong I was. I straightened him out, and I said, you stand up straight and you look me in the eye when I'm talking to you. And he said, okay, Dad. You know, he really became a little boy that time because he wasn't used to me putting my hands on him, right? And not like that. And I didn't hit him, but I just straightened him up. And I said, remember one thing, that I understand you doing that out in the world, but you don't do that in his house. I said, we're on the same side in this house. We're not adversaries. So now you just stand up, look me in the eye, and listen to what I have to tell you, and you better do what I tell you to do. And so I outlawed his behavior with those other two kids. One of them's dead, and one's in jail, or was in jail. He's probably out by now, but he was in with a bad group. But anyway, so that was what he was talking about, me yelling. I said, I didn't yell at you. I just spoke to you with energy.
Right.
Yeah. He said, what? I said, I just spoke with you. Actually, I brought my voice down. He said, I don't remember that way. I said, yeah, that's what I did. But I became this raging father. You're like, don't you ever. Because what they were doing, they were throwing rocks at this apartment building, breaking people's windows.
Wow.
Can you imagine that?
Yeah, that can get you in a lot of
busted.
That can get you in a lot of trouble.
Taken home by the cops when I was a kid doing that.
Dang, Trav, like I didn't know about this.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the thing is, you bust out the wrong window, you win a prize, as I like to say. The right person comes out there, it can go a lot further than, law.
Yeah.
Some people will take it into their own hands and it gets dangerous,
Yeah, definitely.
Things can change fast.
Can you imagine? You're sitting in your house and a rock comes through your window.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I don't think you think about that though when you're being mischievous.
But
you really don't think about consequences.
No,
and that's fine. But to Mr. Billingsley's credit, with him growing up, where he grew up, and the times that he grew up in, the wrong person of color comes out of the house.
Yeah,
it could get very serious, and you got to think like that though.
Definitely right. That's definitely true. That's a good point.
That's exactly what I was thinking. That's wow.
You know what I love about?
Yeah.
Oh, so you know what I love about this episode though is this has been a life lesson episode. You know what I mean?
Man. Yeah.
It's really just a bunch of kids sitting around learning life lessons from the generation before them. You know what I mean? And I really have enjoyed this.
Yeah, dude, this has been phenomenal.
I will say like it's a very different episode because usually like we just get straight into like the anime talk and all of that, and like I'm really enjoying just like hearing like life stories and whatnot. And as you were talking about Mr. Billingsley, like growing up and going down to the creek and playing in the woods, it reminds me of this cartoon called Craig of the Creek. I don't know if you ever heard of it.
No.
But it's like I feel like you would be perfect to do a voice role on that show with the stories that you told us, because like that's pretty much what the show is about. It's about a kid who goes down to the creek with his friends. It's a show with a black family, which is something that you really don't see when it comes to a lot of cartoons. I mean, like you're starting to see more representation now when it comes to black families and cartoons and just black characters in general, whether it be anime or cartoons. But it really makes me think, when you're talking about like your stories as a youth, I think that you would be awesome to be on that show with the talented cast that they have up there.
Or maybe I'll play one of the kids.
What? Did you? Oh, no.
Let's do it.
Now I gotta check. Yeah, now I gotta check.
Yeah, I can do that voice, It was, I gotta tell you a quick story about Digimon. I had just come out of a session. I did Ogamon, Sagittariumon, Ahurumon, Parrotmon. I did a lot of Mons, right? And I wanted to do a Jamaican Mon, but there was no
Right.
Jamaican Mon. Right? But I remember I coming out of a session and Jamie said, Beau, can you do Children's Walla? And I had just been growling as Ogremon, right? And I said, Children's Walla? I never thought about it. And she said, well, let's go in and see. And that's what I did. Hey, where's everybody? Oh, you guys got free candy? Where was I? What in the Oh, everybody got free candy but me. and so he said, okay, this will work. Let's do this. So a lot of people don't know that I actually did some of the kids in Digimon. That's
awesome. Yeah, I didn't know that, man. Like to go back to what I was saying about the black representation and anime, because last year we were able to sit down with Ken Michael, who voiced Philly the Kid on Cannon Busters, and you see these animes coming out now, like Cannon Busters or even Shippuden, where it's like the black characters on the show. It's like I felt like they were represented well. Like they didn't look like black caricatures that you would see in older anime. And even another anime that you were on, Tiger and Bunny, when you played Ben, it's like the characters on that show, like they look like black people. Like they look like they look like you, they look like me. It's like they don't look like they were drawn funny. Like, how do you feel about black representation in the world of anime?
Well, it's growing. That's the good thing. As I say, when I started, there were hardly any. I can't remember there really being any actual black characters, right?
Yeah.
And so, like OG, the one who was saving the universe with his music and Legend of Black Heaven,
right.
He was just like this regular, sort of Caucasian-looking Japanese guy who was working in an office, and at night he was doing his music and saving the universe. And so, and I'd done a number of characters that I wasn't, and there was no thought about, to my knowledge, about Jet, because Jet is like gray,
Right.
And I think that because I ended up voicing Jet, so now Jet is going to be black in the live action.
Yes.
There are characters that are like the Raikage. I mean, if you look at him, he's blonde-haired, big blonde-haired dude, right?
Right.
Of course, my little brother, because B is the character. I wanted to do B, damn it.
Right.
Hey,
B was so fun.
Sorry to cut you off, but we had Kotaro Kobera up here as a guest.
Oh, did you?
Yeah,
He's
really
awesome.
nice guy.
He's awesome, man. Yeah, and that character is so fun. But I'm kind of typecast anyway, and that's fine with me. I voiced the character in Last Hope. I don't know if it was on Netflix, and he literally looked like Jet. I mean, the hair and everything, he just looked like Jet. And so that was one of the gigs that were just offered to me because
right.
For obvious reasons. But let me think, and Old Man Ram on R Zero.
Yeah, R0.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, the bartender. He wasn't black. So the it was beautiful. As I say, once again, it comes back to how blessed and how fortunate I am in my life, and the timing of when I arrived here in Hollywood, and my timing in my involvement in the voice world. The race wasn't a factor, or might even help me to a certain degree. I remember when a lot of my live action career back in the day, when I go for an audition, there wasn't like all black folks for the role I was auditioning for. It would be a multicolored waiting room.
Right.
Yeah.
And like a prison. I remember I did on this show called Profiler. I played a prison warden, and I remember in the audition room, I think there were like 2 blacks, a couple of Asian guys, and like 5 or 6 Caucasian guys, and so it was about the work. I felt it was about the work, and that has been my good fortune to experience. That it's been about the work as about the color of my skin, and if I understand minorities wanting to do their own minority characters, and I totally get that. But the other side of that coin is I would not have been able to do a Caucasian character if that was the rule back in the day when I started.
Right.
So you're not white, you can't do this, right?
Yeah,
And,
I've brought that up before.
Oh, have you? Yeah.
About that just being an issue with the guy voice in Cleveland stepping out from Family Guy,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of people, I guess, wanting people to play the role of what the character is skin tone wise, and that may be limiting the mobility of the characters.
Well, the thing is, especially with historically, there were so few roles for people of color that it would be such an insult and a slap in the face to have a Caucasian person do one of the few roles that is available to me.
Right.
So it's not exactly a parallel when you flip it, but there is that consideration. Years ago, like Mickey Rooney played this caricature of a Chinese person. And there's a lot of that had been going on Broadway, Caucasian actors playing Asian characters, and they monkey with the eye makeup.
Right.
And so I think years ago there wasn't enough representation for Asian actors to speak up and to change that behavior. But I mean, it's in a certain way we come back to white privilege, which is all the way through our culture, and it is what it is. But a lot of people don't understand. I've talked to friends who say, "Well, I don't feel like I have white privilege." I said, "Well, if I explain to you my life experience, you'll see what I mean."
Right.
You don't have to look over your shoulder when you're going someplace like I do.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
And you weren't deprived of stuff because your skin is white. You got stuff because your skin is white. And I was cut out of stuff because, and it ran all the way through in my little community. I remember my English teacher in high school, when I was a sophomore, she was going to give extra credit for if you wrote poetry. So I wrote a poem called Nihilists Die, and I talked about communism, nihilism, socialism, and she refused to believe that I wrote that poem.
Right.
And she would not. She thought I stole that from someplace.
Right.
Because in her mind, I just did not have the mental capacity to write that poem.
Yeah.
Mm.
And I remember when I got my scores back from the LSAT. I don't know if they still do it now. I'm not the LSAT, the SAT, the Scholastic Aptitude Test, writing samples, and I got such high marks. They were all like astounded, and I was thinking, they're teachers. I said, yeah, you did so great, and I was like, why are you so astounded?
Right. Why are you shocked?
Yeah. Why are you shocked? And I was thinking maybe it was because I was an athlete, and that's the way they saw me. And you know, in a lot of people's minds, either you're a jock or you're a brain, but you're not both.
Right.
Yeah.
But I think we're past that now. I think you know, there are plenty of there are ex NFL players who are medical doctors. You know, but back in that time, and I think it was a combination of me being an athlete and being brown and that woman went to our church. I mean, she knew our family, but she just could not get around the fact that I had brain power to write that poem. And I never wrote another poem, which is also sad. She stifled me. She just stifled me, and I just let it go and just kind of like disappeared into being a jock, I guess. And the same thing, a similar thing happened with the art teacher in junior high school. I mean, I had won second place in an art contest in grammar school in citywide, and then I did this Greek landscape, and I drew these olive trees, and it literally like made him mad. He was like mad. He said, "This shows no imagination at all." And I was just you know, doing what I thought was a landscape. If you're doing a landscape, how much imagination does it take? You're just trying to depict a landscape that you have in your mind. Actually, I saw it in comic books or whatever. But he embarrassed me in front of the whole class.
Right.
You know, and he stifled me so much, and I just let that go. I mean, apparently I wasn't destined to have art be as a significant part of my life, but a teacher is supposed to nurture as opposed to holding you back and, you know, making fun of you in front of everybody, which, you know, at that age, that's devastating if you're in front of your classmates. And but I don't know, how do we get down to that? You know, I don't know. I guess.
Well, because I think they're important topics, you know, that need to be talked about. I mean, because even, you know, your generation facing that stuff, there's still kids that are younger than us that are still facing, you know, those kind of things. So, I mean,
it's sad.
70 years goes by, we're still talking about the same thing. And it's like,
and just to piggyback off of what Trav's saying, you know, being a teacher is a very critical position, and, you know, everybody's life in the country essentially. And to slight anybody because of how they view something, especially art, it's basically, it is what you envision, not what they envision. And it's just an example. That's terrible, you know.
Yeah, it's
I mean,
very true.
But in the same token, I want to thank those people because they gave us you. So
I survived, you know.
That's right.
My parents, they felt that in parenting. I remember when my daughter was born. She's the oldest of my two. My father said, "Okay, now your most important function in life is as a father, because you're responsible for nurturing a human being, bring them up." And he said, one of the most important things you can do is foster your children's self-esteem, and that's what they did with me, and that's what they felt, that hitting a child is eats into their self-esteem and their thought of themselves and their personal worth. And so that was something that I took to heart. But, you know, mostly, you know, I got actual lessons that were expressed to me, but so much of my understanding of life, my approach to life, was simply by observing the example my parents set for me, how they dealt with other people. You know, they were always giving gifts to people. They're always the mailman. Back in the day, everything was delivered. So we had a bread man, we had a milkman. You know, milk would be at the front door. On the front step. So they would give gifts to the milkman, the bread man, the mailman, the paper man, or the paper boy, we call him. And so then because they got it back, you know, and during Halloween time in the fall, a mysterious pumpkin would show up on our porch. You know, we're trying to figure out, okay, what neighbor brought us a pumpkin and left it there? And we kind of like a game. And where I grew up, where a lot of it is back east. Out here, everything is gated, but back east, you know, we didn't have fences and walls and things. So you could run through our whole neighborhood, through everybody's backyard.
Right. Yep.
And, so you knew your neighbors, you chatted with your neighbors, and it was your neighborhood was like, it was a community. It was really an awesome way to grow up. And I don't know about where you guys are, but here in California, everybody has a gate and sometimes the gate for the driveway. But if not that, there are walls around their property so that they don't know the name of the person 2 doors down, because everybody sticks to themselves. But you know, the community, as they say, it takes a community to raise a child, and that's the way it was with me. A lot of times when I messed up, my father knew before I got home. So when I got home, and I said, "Oh no, he's talking real quiet."
Yep. He knows.
He knows. He knows. He said, "Come over here and sit down."
But my mom would do the same thing too, though. My mom would give gifts to the bus driver. You know, I'm like, why? You know, and as a kid, you're like, why do I need to give the bus driver a gift?
Right.
But sometimes it's that little bit. You know what I mean? A little bit of appreciation.
Relations, you know, it's human nature. It's human relations, and I think that as we were talking about the left and the right, it seems like that's one of the differences that I perceived. That in the late 60s and early 70s, they had the flower children. I remember I was walking down the street in New York. It was 1969. And when I had just gone down, I was still in law school. I was walking down the street, and somebody tossed me a joint, and said, "Have a nice day, brother." And I said, "Oh," just walked by and tossed me a joint, you know.
Jeez.
And it was, as I say, because of Vietnam and Make Love Not War, the flower children. There was this, and people kind of made fun of people on the other side, on the right, and make fun. But it was a wonderful, warm space to be in, where people were. It was like a great thing to do a random act of kindness for somebody, you know, not to get something back, just to do a nice kindness to somebody. And that's the way I've tried to live my life. I remember I was in a bank, and there was this older woman. She went and she was $10 short on something. I don't remember what it was, and I was behind her, and I just happened to. And then, so, you know, I gave her the money, and she just started weeping, right? And it was like $10 or $20. I mean, it was just a small amount, but it was a big deal to her,
right?
And of course, I felt good about it, and I remember my mother explaining to me that allow people to do good things for you. Because I would always say to my kids, don't get me a gift, don't do this, you know, don't get me a gift, give me garden. She said that, and she said, you feel good when you give people gifts, right? I said, yeah. She says, well, allow people to feel good to give you gifts. And because I had never thought of it that way, you know,
right.
I have everything I need, I have everything I need, I have for a long time. And but I was thinking, oh yeah, this is one time where I failed to put myself in somebody else's shoes. I was always taught to walk in somebody else's moccasins, you know, from my Native American heritage, the Cherokee down in South Carolina. You know, walk a mile in somebody's moccasins to try to understand what their point of view is, and that's another thing that I was taught when I grew up, to try to understand somebody else's point of view, and that's why it kind of hit me when you mentioned about the slave master's point of view. How does somebody derive pleasure from beating a human being? And that's one thing I hadn't thought about that, and it makes me even more angry at that person. How do you get joy from doing that? How I mean, if I step on somebody's foot, I feel badly about it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I feel like that if I
accidentally elbow somebody or something.
No. I was gonna say, like, you know, there's times where it's like, say you might be walking out of a place and you don't know that somebody's behind you, and it's like, you know, you just walk out the door, and you know, I'm always one of those type of people where it's like, if somebody's behind me, I always hold the door for them. But like, if I see that somebody's behind me and the door closes on them, I always apologize and let them know, like, hey, I didn't know you were behind me, because I feel bad, because it's like nobody wants to have the door shut in their face, you know?
Right. When you think about that, and that's a wonderful point of view, when you think about that, the way on the other end of the continuum, somebody who gets joy out of whipping somebody. You know, in front of their relatives and loved ones and friends, you know, it's just not just the physical pain, but the humiliation.
Yeah, I mean, taking it even as far as the rape situation, I can't even imagine being able to be aroused.
And doing the
you know what
problem.
I mean?
the problem with a lot of these situations, anything negative, anything positive, it goes back to what you're shown as a child, really. You know, if you were beat, you know, the more likelihood of you going out and doing the same thing, and when you're faced with adversity, is one of those things, you know. Even, you know, unfortunately, rape, all of it, really. And I think it comes down to if we teach less of that to our children moving forward, you know. You know, it's the only way to really combat it, you know, because it should be left up to teachers and authority figures when you get there. You know, it has to start at the beginning.
In the home, right?
Yeah, exactly.
That's the thing. And as I say, I'm sad to say there's so many, and a lot of that comes from the Bible, unfortunately. You know, spare the rod, spoil the child. And you know, I grew up in a Baptist household, but as I say, my parents broke that. You know, they said, "The heck with that business." You know, I'm not gonna be beating my kids, especially my son, so that he's gonna want to hit somebody to solve a problem.
Right.
Yeah.
And when I wanted to hit somebody, it was on a football field.
Yeah, exactly.
Leave it out there on the field.
I'm the same way. Like, I'm a professional wrestler, so it's like, you know, whenever I'm angry, I just take it all out in the ring. Like, if I want to slap somebody in the face, I'm going to slap them in the face. You know what I'm saying? So I get where you're coming from. When he's like, you know, if you're angry about something, I'm going to take it out in the football field.
People sign up for that. You know, boxing, football, any sort of athletic. People sign up to do that.
Exactly.
So.
And
it's like,
unfortunately, some of the cops do too. You know?
Right.
Yeah, for sure. You know, something I wanted to bring up is because you were in Halloween H2O. Now, have you always been, not have you, but were you into horror movies coming up? And like, how did it feel, you know, being a part of like the legendary Halloween franchise?
Oh, that was awesome. I mean, it's like, you know, you join a franchise like that, and you're part of that family. It's like when I did Star Trek Into Darkness with J.J. Abrams.
Yeah.
You know? He's like, I'm in the Star Trek family. Yeah. This is awesome. But, you know, as a kid, you know, there weren't a lot of horror movies for me back in the day, and they weren't gory at all.
Yeah.
You know, there'd be The Mummy, and I mean, there weren't really Frankenstein.
Invisible Man.
Yeah, those are kind of like soft core, like The Blob is kind of soft core.
Right, yeah.
Same.
You know, I don't know if you know that story about The Blob, but it stayed in the theaters. They pulled it out of the theaters after like 2 weeks.
The original or the one you did in the 80s?
Ours.
Okay.
Yeah. Not the original, our remake of it with Kevin Dillon. But yeah, they pulled it out of the theaters because I guess people, they were used to Friday, you know, the all the gore of the horror movies,
slashers,
and ours didn't really have a bunch of gore,
right?
And so and that's the irony of that. It's become a cult classic now.
Yep.
But when it was first in the theaters, people go, what's this? You know, there's no horror here. But yeah, I never had. I remember watching the original Star Trek, I think like 68, 69, but that wasn't really horror. That was sci-fi.
Right.
So when the horror movies came in, for Friday the 13th, and you know all of that stuff, I never really had a thought about it. It was basically like I'd love to do that because it would be a gig.
Right.
But it wasn't like some type of emotional need that I had. But then when I did The Blob, I said, this is just fun. First of all, you know, when you're doing a horror movie, you're usually working nights instead of days. So that was a whole big turnaround. That, you know, we'd have like a 5:30, 6 o'clock call in the evening and work all night, and then try to get some sleep during the day, and then go back and work all night. And it was something I didn't realize, you know, because we went to Louisiana to do it, and I was thinking we were in Abbeville, which is in Cajun country. I got to tell you a quick story. Now, when we were there, this guy owned this Western store, and he had a discount for everybody from the film company. So myself, Art LaFleur, and I, we went in looking around. It was a Western store, and we're looking around, and so the owner comes up and says, "Y'all from the movie company?" I said, yeah. And he said, he's talking a little small talk, and he said, y'all ever have gator? And I said, excuse me? I couldn't understand what he was saying. He said, have you ever had gator? Alligator.
Alligator.
Oh, no, never ate that. He said, oh, it's good to eat, He said, a friend of mine had a barbecue the other day. He had a whole side of gator. He put onion on pepper, cayenne pepper. Could have ate 50 pounds of it. And Art and I were looking at each other and said, I love this guy. I love this guy. And to this day, he is the basis of a Cajun accent. Whenever I do, I have to come up with a Cajun accent. I hear him in my mind, and I get in there and I start thumping my D's and talking like that,
So, like, that's a question right there. Like, with you just bringing him up as, your Cajun accent, like, what are some of the other, whether it be characters like from Looney Tunes or anything like that, or characters on sitcoms, like, who were some of the people that inspired you to, use their voice when it came to doing voice work?
I don't know that I have an actual person who inspired me. When I was a kid, for some reason, I used to do a British accent, and to the point where I think my mother said, just stop that." She said, just stop that, because I remember I pick up the phone, and say, "Hello, how are you? What are you doing?" And my mother. And I didn't have much of a dialogue there and much of a basis for improv, so I would be saying the same stuff over and over again.
Yeah.
Hello, how are you? And my mother said, just stop it. Go someplace else and do that. But I've and I guess I did probably my first performance was when I was in 5th or 6th grade. I did a ham bone. You know the ham bone?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That stuff. I did the ham bone in the talent show. And I sang Silent Night in the Christmas play off stage. But for some reason, I had a little bit of a performing urge in me. It wasn't big. I remember my 6th grade teacher identified my singing voice, and so she sent me around to the other classes singing Loch Lomond. You know that the Scottish song? By yon bonny banks and by yon bonny breeze. Anyway, so that was a little performing that I did. But yeah, for some reason I was captivated by the British accent, and then I used to fool around when my wife was working. She was working in an office. And I would call and use these different voices. And she finally said, "You got to stop that. The office thinks I'm the office slut, because all of these different guys are calling these different accents, asking for me." She said, "So you got to stop it." And I got busted too once. I was doing a French accent, but I don't speak French, and so she started talking to me in French. So luckily my mind worked quickly, and what I did is say, excusez-moi, why I am in your country, I am never speaking French, and I am never understanding French while I'm here, so you must speak to me in English, because I will not respond to you in French. And she said, "Oh, okay," and I got away with it, and I told Cece, she said, "Yeah, you got busted. You need to just stop that." I said, "Okay, maybe I'll calm myself down," because that was kind of embarrassing. When she started speaking in French, my whole body just froze. I said, "Oh yeah, no, right, I'm busted. I'm a fraud." That's almost kind of the way I felt in my career when I first started, because when I went to New York to start my acting career, I had only done one play. And Emperor Jones, and so I had no training in it at all. But I said, acting, how hard can it be? And I'm Beau Billingslea, so I can do anything.
That's right.
Yeah, right. And but as time went on, I started feeling like I think I'm gonna get exposed here. I'm getting exposed as a fraud. And so my voice teacher actually sent me to study the classics. She said you need to study Shakespeare and Moliere and everything. But the film technique, acting on stage is totally easy compared to doing film work, because film work, I don't know, you guys are probably aware, but as I tell my cousins who say, "Get me in the show business, man," it's not, and I say it's not as easy as it looks.
Not as easy, yeah.
And all professionals make everything look easy. The tennis players, the golfers, the basketball players, they make it look easy, and then you try to do it, and you say, "Damn." This is hard, right?
Yep.
So I explained to him and say, when we're doing a scene, you shoot it like this, like we're doing a master. Let's say we're having we're having dinner and we're going to shoot the scene, and so they'll have the camera a distance away, and we'll run through the whole scene, and then they'll come in and do close-ups. Everybody's close-up, and so when you're doing the master, let's say when you're eating in your dinner, there's a lot of business. You're drinking. You're taking a bite, you're passing this, and you're doing all of these things. Well, as the actor, you have to remember what you did and when you did it.
Right.
Now think about that. You have to remember what you did and when you did it. When you took a sip, if you're wearing glasses, when you took your glasses off, when you put them back on, all during the dialogue. So that when it comes time for your close-up, they can cut back and forth and it'll match, right? And if you don't remember everything you did and when you did it, you lose your close-up. And what that means is, if I don't remember what I did and when I did it, well, during my close-up, they'll put the camera on somebody else listening to me, right, instead of on me talking. That's the consequence of not knowing, monitoring yourself, knowing when you go like this in the scene. Just some little thing. I remember I was doing American President, and Michael Douglas had done the master, and they were moving in for a close-up, and he had run his hand through his hair, but he didn't remember which hand. Yeah. And so he asked him being the star of the movie, right? The script supervisor and continuity, they had a note in there. And so when he asked, which hand did I use when I ran it through my hair? And she said, oh, left hand. He said, okay, thanks. But Beau Billingslea, if I had asked that question, they'd say, first of all, I have no business running my hand through my hair because I haven't gotten any. But that aside, the answer would be, don't you know? Because I'm not a megastar of a movie. But that can be a real nightmare. I remember I did this show with Tony Danza, his second show, and I did Who's the Boss with him with Ray Charles. I don't know if you guys know that. But
that's crazy.
I was doing a judge. I did like 7 or 8 episodes of a show it was called Family Law. He played a lawyer, I was the judge. Right. And I was wearing glasses because I wear contact lenses or glasses. And I was wearing glasses. And so the director came up and he says, okay, the glasses either stay on or stay off. And I knew exactly what he was talking about, because apparently he'd had experience with, the judge wants to take his glasses off and be very erudite and very intellectual and blah, 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 and put them back on. But he'd had experiences with the actors not remembering when they did it. So he said, we're not gonna, he says, I trust you know what you're doing. He says, but just to make my life simple, just leave your glasses on or don't wear them at all. And I totally got him. Right. I totally got him, because it can be an actor's nightmare if you don't remember what you did when you did it. And when I told this story to my cousin, he said, wow, I had no idea. I said, I know. I didn't either until I got in a situation where I was stuck and didn't remember what I did and when I did it. And it was also embarrassing. Right. Aside from losing my close-up, I don't remember what the show. Aside from losing my close-up, it was also embarrassing because the director said, "No, we can't." Oh no. All right, we're gonna have to make an adjustment. And the adjustment was I lost my close-up, but that only happened once. I said, "No, I learned my lesson."
That's all it took.
Losing my close-up here, So anyway, the little ins and outs of a show business that people don't know about is very important in our lives. People just think about hitting your mark and saying your lines, but There's a lot more to it than that. I remember I was doing this movie Night Shift. Are you guys aware of that Night Shift with Henry Winkler? It was Michael Keaton's first movie, and it was a comedy. And we did it in I think 80, 81. And we right at the end of the movie, there's a gunfight.
Yeah.
And I play a cop, and they had this shot set up where I had to hit a square in space. Because the camera they set the focus puller would set to focus me when I hit this square in space. And so I was over here and I had to, we're doing the shooting and ducking and shooting and then coming up and trying to hit this square in space. And I remember when I was Ronnie Howard was the director.
Yeah.
I remember Ronnie told me I had to do that. I mean, we need you to hit this square in the space. So, and I had developed my own techniques for how to hit my mark and everything, but it's on the floor, not in the middle of space. Right? So, I remember what I did. I walked backwards. That's one of the things, and I walked backwards and counted my steps, and then so that I would know when I went forward how many steps to get to that square in space where I can put my head so I would be in focus, because there's no sense doing a great shot, a great scene, if you don't hit your mark,
right,
and you're not in focus. So it's all for nothing. And again, that's basic for an actor. So if you get busted for not hitting your mark, it's like, we got an amateur here. This guy, who is this guy? You got to hit your mark. I mean, there are two things. You got to know your lines and hit your mark. Those are two bottom lines. But I was thinking about, and I did it, and it was fine, because by that time I had honed my technique for being very sparse with my props, and with doing this being simple, as they say in show business, less is more.
That's true. That's true.
Especially if you, with your facial expressions, if you're doing a movie, it's got to be very, very slight, because if you're on a giant jumbo screen and it's just your face, big movements are just horrible for the audience. It's shocking to the audience. So you gotta know what level works. You can't. What works on stage is very often not going to work on film.
Yeah.
And of course, going back to the voice world, you don't have your own body, but you have the body of the character, the animation, and their face. But your basic work is, to deliver the emotion, the appropriate emotion at the moment, just with your voice. And the other thing is, a lot of people don't realize that even though, when we're doing voiceover, we're reading, there's a lot of times where we have to memorize chunks of dialogue, because what we're doing is what they call chasing the scene.
Yeah.
The engineer will give you the beeps. Once you start, then you just chase the scene as you're watching it, especially with the fights.
Right.
With the battles. You're watching it and doing your voice work based on that. And so looking down at your script, it can be a real problem for you, right? So what you're trying to do is memorize chunks of dialogue so that you can look at the video and not be looking down at your script. So that's a little something a lot of people, if you don't do voice work, you don't understand that's memorization is also a bit of part of our work as voice actors.
Yeah, because you don't think about that. You just think that they don't need to memorize it because you don't physically see them.
Exactly.
Right.
But
we do.
Yeah, so
motion capture, right? Yeah.
So last question, and then we can go ahead and wrap this thing up. What do you enjoy doing more, voice acting work or acting on the screen?
Well, this is kind of like apples and oranges. I enjoy both. One of the things about live action is that it's a whole community.
right.
You might have with American President, there was probably about 100 people on the set. Everybody having their different functions, and but when you're doing anime, I'm going in. I'm the only person in the booth.
Yeah.
I'm dealing with the director, and especially nowadays, if you're doing it from home, or I did a video game, 2 video games last week. One director was in Australia, the other director was in Amsterdam.
Yeah.
But when you're working on camera, there's a whole, you're having lunch together, you're sitting around chatting, and you're experiencing, you're having a life experience with people. As we say, once we've worked with somebody, now we're part of each other's history.
Right. Yeah.
And like I remember, I did the show Murphy Brown, and Adam West was guesting that week with me.
Right.
He was the original Batman on TV.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And we just clicked right away from the first day. So every day we had lunch together.
Wow.
And he would tell me stories about his experience doing Batman, and talking about how great it was, because once it got to be a classic, everybody wanted, all of the wonderful actors in Hollywood wanted to be on it.
Yeah.
And so he said he got a chance to work with some wonderful actors, and he said, and he first was concerned about how he looked in tights.
Right.
but that's an aspect of on camera that is much different from doing voiceover. So I miss that. I mean, I just miss that. Craft services, when you go get a snack and having lunch and having dinner, and working these long hours, and people put makeup on you and wardrobe, fixing your wardrobe, and it's just a wonderful life experience.
Mm-hmm.
And like I did this show on Nickelodeon called Just Jordan. I don't know if y'all remember that.
Oh yeah.
I remember that show. Yeah, you were.
You probably don't know that I was on it.
Yeah, you were Jordan's grandfather up there, correct?
Yes, I was. I was Papa Grant. Yeah, I was Papa Grant. But the beautiful thing about that was that my granddaughter, my oldest one, she was a little girl at the time, and she did extra work on it.
Oh, nice.
And so, and if you can work with your family, especially your grandbaby, it's just like, and she would run around the sound stage. She was Queen Bee, right, because of me. And I remember the last episode of the first season, the writers wrote this beautiful food fight. And, because I ran a diner. So they wrote this beautiful food fight. And luckily, my granddaughter was working that day. The first year, we were not multiple cameras. So we did scene by scene. We didn't have a filming night. The second season, we had a filming night on Friday nights. But so anyway, and one of the adults didn't show up. So my daughter was on the show, too. That was the first time.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah. And so we're in the diner, and we're having this food fight, and smushing cake on my face and pouring Kool-Aid on my head. And my granddaughter looked at my daughter and said, "Mommy, this is so much fun." And she grabbed a handful of cake and then smushed it into my face. She poured Kool-Aid on my head. And see, those experiences,
Yeah.
you can't, they're priceless. They're priceless. And I still have the photos I look at every now and then of because we did took a lot of photos after the food fight, because everybody was just a mess, right? So from that standpoint, on camera is just fabulous, and stage is fabulous, because you're getting the immediate response, live response from people,
Right.
And so that's absolutely wonderful. Voiceover has its special qualities too. So I wouldn't say I enjoy one more than the other, but they're just different.
Yeah.
You can understand how the on-camera experience is such a full, life expanding event, so that you because you're interacting with a lot of people. Because life's about people.
Right.
So that is. That's the big difference in terms of the experience. As I explained, the difference between the work, but with the life experience, just giving people hugs, and you're seeing the same people in some of these shows, like NCIS has been on, I don't know what, 12 years or something. I mean, that's a family. You develop. It's like your other family. Seinfeld was 9 years. Our show was just 2 years, but we still felt that way, and I'm still in touch with people.
I was about to say, do you talk to little JJ?
Pardon?
I said I was about to say you talked to little
I'm not
JJ.
in touch with JJ. I don't know what happened with JJ's career, to tell you the truth.
He was on Wild 'N Out until recently, where it got canceled, or they fired Nick Cannon or whatever that controversy was.
I think I had watched a video where they was talking about, like, he wanted to focus on school and whatnot, and he wanted to focus on other things in his life, because it's just like, you get older, especially when you're a child star, because he was on the BET comedy show. I can't remember what the show was. That's how everybody found out about him. And then when he was on Just Jordan, I figured, like, after that show, like, he was going to blow up, but it's like, sometimes, like, that's what happens, where it's just like you just don't know what's going to happen afterwards. And if you don't blow up in your career, whether it be comedy or acting, it's like like how you were saying earlier, bro, like, sometimes you got to go back to the real world, and you got to work a normal job, and go to school, and hopefully something opens up. And I know he was on Wild 'N Out, so he was still on TV. It's just that he stopped being as big as he used to be, unfortunately.
Right. Yeah. Sometimes you never know how or why a career goes as it goes.
Right.
And you just wish the best for people. Justin Chan. His career has taken a slightly different path. But it was funny. Justin Chan. I think he was like 26 years old, playing a 16-year-old. But I remember, and Justin came up to me like one of the first days. He said, "I want to learn everything I can from you."
Oh, nice.
It was really, really refreshing, because the other kids, they kind of, how kids I can be, because he wasn't a kid, he was an adult. They make fun of me. I remember people were starting to, they were texting and making jokes about me when I was just standing right there, and it was kind of weird. But Justin was great. He came in, "I want to learn everything I can from you," and he did. He would ask questions, and that's one of the ways I grew up. My parents taught me that if you ask questions and listen, you will never be uncomfortable any place in your life. If you go to a party, you don't know a soul. Ask questions and listen.
Yeah.
And that's a comfort that you have. And I taught my kids, and of course my son's an attorney, so that's what he asks questions and listens.
Yeah.
My daughter's a CPA, but she works with numbers. But that experience was a lot of fun. It's so sad that our show was canceled. And it was canceled because of politics, because we had good ratings, 4.7s, 4.8s, and but they had this show iCarly that was coming on.
Yeah,
and they fell in love with that, and they didn't. I don't know what it was. I hate to go the racial route, but I don't know. It was a multiracial show. Our show was.
Yeah.
Right.
JJ's friends was Hispanic friend, Asian friend, and it was cool. And I got a lot of response from people. They were saying, from adults, saying that was one of the few shows on TV that they could sit down and watch with their child and enjoy it.
I agree.
Right.
Because of the way they wrote the storylines. And with me, I would be doing capers saying, "Don't tell your mom,"
Yeah.
And that. Yes.
No, I'm sorry. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, I was just saying that we had a nice family there with Just Jordan, and it was very, very sad and surprising that the show was canceled. I remember when they called me to say that, I thought they were calling me. Casting was calling me to tell me when we were going to start back for our third season. It was on a Friday. I'll never forget it. And they were saying, "Actually, I don't have any good news, Beau. The show's been canceled." And I'm saying, "What? We had great ratings. It was a great show." I mean, with the gimmick of him saying freeze and popping out of the frame and talking to camera and little life lessons for kids but it was because of politics. I found out later. I'm not going to go into the details.
Yeah.
But it was sad, and they never really got totally behind our show. Usually when you have a show like that, they'll send me or the kids someplace to open a mall in Milwaukee.
Right.
They send the kids on publicity junkets. They didn't send our kids any place, or me. They didn't send us any place. It was almost like, I don't know, what are they doing? Are we a tax write-off? That's what I was thinking.
Right.
What's going on? They're not totally behind our show, but it's history. And the other thing is, you can't find Just Jordan any place.
Yeah, you can. Yeah. It's crazy.
It's crazy. I did our two writers from the first season went on to write for Wizards of Waverly Place.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, I knew that you made a guest appearance on there.
Yeah, I did. I made a guest appearance on that, and just as a favor to them, and I'm still getting residuals from that.
Right.
But Just Jordan, they pulled it, and it's just been someplace on a shelf in the halls of Nickelodeon, and I don't get that either.
Nickelodeon does that for a lot of their shows, unfortunately.
Yeah, is that what they do?
It's hard. Viacom's a weird company, man. It's like they don't want to make money off of the stuff that they spent money on. They're weird.
Yeah.
They're very weird.
Well, I know Wizards of Waverly Place is showing. I mean, I get residuals from all over the world on that.
Oh, Disney will milk everything for what it's worth. Trust me.
Yeah, well, smart. I mean, it's
right.
They spent money creating a project. Well, why not continue to make money on it?
Yeah.
But I mean, as I say, I don't want to go the race card because I don't know what's going on. But it's a black show that seems like Nickelodeon just they canceled it and buried it.
Well, if you notice that a lot of Nickelodeon black shows are like that. Cousin Skeeter, Alan Strange, Just Jordan. A lot of black shows got buried.
Kale, Romeo. I was gonna say like mostly shows that involve families. I mean, like even when it's not a black family, like I think it was like the Brothers Garcia. Like, I don't think that lasted for a long time either. It seems like the shows where they're not centered around family and family lessons and stuff like that. They don't last long on Nickelodeon. Like iCarly, like that lasted for years, and
that was
a
long time.
And the same thing with I think Victorious as well.
Yeah, they both got the spinoff to Sam and Cat too.
Yeah.
So
Victorious didn't last long. Not very long.
Victorious was around for a minute.
I think it only had 3 seasons.
I don't know. I just remember like Victorious was on a lot longer than Just Jordan. I remember.
Yeah, we can agree on that. Yeah, I mean, it's weird because when Disney comes out with stuff, it's like if you're with Disney, man, that stuff never dies.
Yeah,
look at some of the stuff they just announced, like reboots and remakes, and bringing people back. It's they reuse their cast, so I don't know. It might just
the
be
High School Musical holiday special.
Exactly. Then we got the Mighty Ducks is coming back and things of that nature. It's just weird how they reuse or find ways to bring their families back. And look at it that way.
Yeah.
So, might just be Nickelodeon, guys.
Yeah.
Well, it seems like it is. I've worked for Disney a few times. I did that Miley Cyrus movie. I don't know if you guys
remember that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Do you remember the parrot dance?
What were you, the mayor?
Yeah, he was the mayor.
Yeah.
Do you remember the parrot dance where the parrot went up my leg?
Yeah.
And I had the lobster. They had the lobster bibs with my head on the lobster.
Yeah. My wife was pretty excited to find out that I was having the mayor from the Hannah Montana movie up here.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Tell her I said hello and she has great taste.
Yeah, I got it.
Yeah, man, it's just awesome that it's like, no matter what it is that you've done, Mr. Billingsley, like whether it's anime, like acting on a sitcom, it's like, you have fans all over the world and all of the projects that you've done. And I just want to say, thank you again for joining us today on the 2-year anniversary episode of Leveling Up with Benjamin Banks. And before we let you go, can you tell everybody in social media land where they can find you at?
Well, I'm on Twitter, on Facebook, on Instagram. It's Beau Billingsley. And I love to chat with you. Whenever my fans reach out to me, I try to reach back. Sometimes it might take some time, like with you guys. Sometimes
I was in the DMs. I appreciate it, man. I appreciate you getting back with us, man. We really appreciate this.
We appreciate it. Here Leveling Up.
Well, I appreciate you guys. It warms my heart to be able to sit and chat with you and to share my stories and to hear your stories. And as I say, life's about people, right? So now we're part of each other's history.
Yeah,
that's true. You're part of Leveling Up with Benjamin Banks family now, so that's awesome.
Yeah,
awesome. Yeah, we appreciate that. So, again, thank you for joining us today, and we hope that you have a good day.
Thank you, and the same to you all.
Thank you.
Stay safe.
Yes, sir.
Be sure to smash that like button if you enjoyed this video and get notified every time we upload a new one by subscribing and ticking the bell icon. You can also listen to the full episode by searching for Leveling Up with Benjamin Banks on your favorite podcast app. If you'd like to help support more great content like this, be sure to check us out on Patreon. We'll have the link posted in the description below. Thanks for listening, and see you on the next episode of Leveling Up with Benjamin Banks.